Why do emotionally strong men move away in silence? Not with anger, not with arguments, not with long explanations, but with a quiet presence, a calm departure, a step back into peace. This question has been asked for centuries, from the writings of Marcus Aurelius to the silent wisdom of countless men who came before us. The truth has always been the same. A strong man doesn't leave because he hates you. He leaves because he loves his peace more than the chaos you bring. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Silence is the highest form of emotional discipline. When a man has mastered himself, when he no longer needs validation, approval, or constant reassurance, he gains the rarest form of power, the ability to walk away quietly. Most men don't understand this. They fight. They beg. They explain themselves endlessly, hoping someone will finally get them. But the emotionally strong man, he doesn't, because he knows that words rarely change people. Energy does, presence does, action does. And sometimes the most powerful action is silence. Let me tell you something. An emotionally weak man fears silence. He fills every quiet moment with words, excuses, noise. He clings. He argues. He wants to prove he's right. But the emotionally strong man, he embraces silence, because silence is clarity. Silence is power. Silence is truth. When a strong man walks away in silence, he is not abandoning anyone. He is returning to himself. He is choosing his dignity over disrespect. He is choosing his inner world over external drama. He knows that the man who controls his emotions controls his destiny. That is why silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the core of Stoicism. This is the essence of why a strong man leaves quietly, because he understands that life is too short to waste on battles that don't matter, on people who don't value him, on situations that drain his spirit. A weak man stays where he is disrespected. A strong man leaves, not because he is cold, but because he is free. Think about it. When a man argues endlessly, when he shouts, when he throws anger into the air, what happens? He loses energy. He loses presence. He lowers himself to the chaos around him. But when he leaves in silence, he leaves people questioning themselves. He leaves an imprint that words could never achieve. He leaves with dignity. Silence is the sound of strength, and walking away silently is the final proof that a man has mastered himself. This is the Stoic truth, that true strength is not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. Not in forcing people to stay, but in having the courage to walk away. Because sometimes, the most powerful statement a man can make is to say nothing at all. When an emotionally strong man chooses silence, people misunderstand him. Some say he is cold. Some say he is heartless. Some say he doesn't care. But here's the truth. He cares deeply. He feels deeply. He simply refuses to waste his life proving it to those who cannot see it. A man of strength doesn't need to explain himself endlessly. He doesn't need to shout, argue, or chase. His worth is not up for debate. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is wisdom. Silence is saying, "I will not give my energy to what does not grow me." Think about the oak tree. It does not fight the wind. It does not scream when the storm comes. It simply stands, strong, rooted, silent. And when the storm passes, it is still there, unmoved. That is the strong man. He does not let storms define him. He lets silence carry him through. You see, Walking away silently is not about leaving others behind. It is about finding yourself again. When a man spends too much time proving himself to people, he loses himself. He bends, he twists, he compromises his soul. But when he finally learns the art of silence, he stops chasing, he stops convincing, he stops begging to be understood. Instead, he begins to understand himself. Stoic philosophy teaches us that peace is not found in the approval of others, but in the alignment of our soul with truth. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When a man walks away silently, he is reacting with mastery. He is saying, "I will not be moved by disrespect. I will not be controlled by chaos. I will not drown in noise." Instead, he chooses peace. He chooses calm. He chooses silence. And that silence speaks louder than words. Women feel it. Friends feel it. The world feels it. Because silence is not empty. It echoes. It lingers in the mind of those left behind. It forces them to reflect. Why did he leave? What did I lose? What did my noise push away? This is the quiet power of the strong man. He doesn't try to convince you of his value. He shows it by walking away when it's no longer honored. But let me be clear, brother. Walking away silently is not about arrogance. It is not about revenge. It is not about making others chase you. It is about alignment. It is about dignity. It is about refusing to lower yourself. Because when a man lowers himself into noise, he loses sight of who he really is. But when he steps back into silence, he returns to his higher self. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That is the code of the strong man. If the words will not heal, if the fight will not bring peace, if the explanation will not be respected, he does not waste it. Instead, he says nothing. He simply walks. And in that silence, he regains his freedom. Freedom is the reason strong men value silence. Because when you argue endlessly, you chain yourself to the opinions of others. When you chase, you chain yourself to their validation. When you beg, you chain yourself to their mercy. But when you walk away silently, you cut the chains. You return to your own power. You remind yourself, I belong to myself. And that, my brother, is the highest form of attraction. Yes, attraction. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who does not beg. Nothing is more attractive than a man who does not explain himself to those who refuse to understand. Nothing is more powerful than a man who can walk away, with peace in his eyes and silence on his lips. This is the paradox. Weak men shout to be noticed. Strong men become unforgettable in their silence. Women remember it. Enemies respect it. Friends admire it. And the man himself? He sleeps peacefully at night because he did not betray himself. Brother, let me remind you, silence is not retreat. It is a strategy. It is a declaration. I will not fight battles that do not deserve me. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you rise. When you stop arguing, you evolve. When you stop clinging, you attract. That is why the emotionally strong man walks away in silence. Not because he is weak, but because he has already won. There's something you must understand. When a man chooses silence, it is not because he has nothing to say. It is because he has already said enough. He has explained. He has given. He has shown patience. He has offered his presence. And when none of that is valued, he simply lets silence speak for him. Because silence is a mirror. It reflects truth back to those who cannot see it. Psychology tells us that human beings fear silence more than conflict. Conflict at least keeps the noise alive. Conflict means attention is still there. Conflict means the connection hasn't died yet. But silence? Silence is terrifying. Because silence forces you to face yourself. That's why when a strong man walks away silently, people feel it in their bones. His absence screams louder than his presence ever did. And here lies the paradox. By walking away, he becomes unforgettable. By saying nothing, he says everything. By being absent, he becomes present in their mind forever. Brother, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how people remember the man who left quietly more than the man who stayed and argued? The man who argued becomes background noise. His words fade, his energy drains, his presence dissolves into the chaos. But the man who left silently, his image remains, his dignity remains, his silence haunts. This is the secret power of the strong man's silence. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom is found in detachment. Seneca once wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." This is why emotionally strong men walk away. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much about preserving themselves. Every man has a choice. Either lose himself, proving his worth to those who don't see it, or protect his soul by walking away quietly. The weak man chooses the first path. The strong man chooses the second. Now let's talk about peace. Peace is the true currency of life. Not money, not fame, not validation. Peace. A man who has peace can walk through fire without burning. A man who has peace can face storms without drowning. A man who has peace becomes unshakable. That's why the strong man doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't battle for respect. Because he knows all of these things are worthless if they cost him his peace. So when his peace is threatened, he walks away. Not with rage, not with bitterness, but with silence. Because peace must be protected, even if it means losing everything else. Let me give you an image. Picture a lake at dawn. The water is still. The air is calm. The world is silent. That is the soul of a strong man when he walks away. He is not running. He is not hiding. He is returning to stillness. And in that stillness, he finds himself again. Now here's the part most people don't understand. Walking away silently is not only about peace, it is also about power. Because when you do not react to disrespect, you rise above it. When you do not argue with lies, you remain aligned with truth. When you do not beg for attention, you remind the world that you are already whole. That is power, and that power creates respect. Respect cannot be demanded. It cannot be begged for. It cannot be forced. It must be inspired. And nothing inspires more respect than a man who knows when to walk away. A man who values himself enough to leave the table when love is no longer served. A man who understands that dignity is worth more than attention. This man does not shout for respect. He earns it through silence. Women feel this deeply. They may not say it out loud, but they respect the man who does not chase them endlessly. They admire the man who does not drown in emotional storms. They are drawn to the man who knows when to walk away. Why? Because it shows mastery. It shows discipline. It shows strength. A man who can leave silently is a man who cannot be controlled by emotional games. And that, brother, is deeply attractive. Because women may test men, they may push boundaries, they may create storms, but deep down, they long for a man who can remain calm, stoic, and unshakable. The man who argues endlessly, he loses respect. The man who begs, he loses attraction. The man who stays where he is not valued, he loses himself. But the man who leaves in silence, he gains respect, even in absence. He becomes a mystery, even in distance. He becomes unforgettable, even when he's gone. Brother, here's the truth. Walking away silently is not about giving up. It is about choosing yourself. And when a man chooses himself, when he protects his peace, when he values his dignity above all, he doesn't just walk away, he ascends. So why does the emotionally strong man walk away silently? Because silence is the final teacher. Because silence is the last boundary. Because silence is the most powerful answer to noise. He does not leave to punish. He does not leave to manipulate. He does not leave to prove a point. He leaves because he has nothing left to lose except his peace. And a man who has chosen peace over chaos has already chosen victory. Brother, the world today tries to convince men that loudness is strength, that dominance comes from shouting, that winning comes from fighting every battle. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world, wrote words in his private journal, reminding himself not to be ruled by anger, not to be pulled by chaos, not to lose his calm. Think about that. An emperor, with armies at his command, teaching himself that true power was found not in controlling others, but in controlling himself. That is the Stoic truth. That is why emotionally strong men walk away in silence, because the man who masters himself is greater than the man who conquers 1,000 others. Let me give you an image. Two men stand in the middle of a storm. One screams at the wind. He fights. He shakes his fist at the sky, but the storm only grows louder. The other man, he closes his eyes. He stands tall. He lets the storm rage around him, but within him there is silence. Which man is stronger? The one who wasted his soul fighting the storm, or the one who carried peace within him no matter what happened? That is the strong man. That is the man who walks away silently. There is an elegance in this kind of strength, a dignity that cannot be faked, a magnetism that cannot be denied. Because when you stop fighting for recognition, people recognize you more. When you stop begging for love, people feel the weight of what they lost. When you stop shouting, your silence echoes in eternity. This is why people remember the strong man long after he is gone, not because he was the loudest, not because he forced anyone to stay, but because he had the courage to leave without noise. Brother, let me remind you, every time you walk away silently, you are telling the world, my peace matters. My dignity matters. My soul matters. And that declaration is worth more than any argument, any fight, any desperate attempt to explain yourself. Because explanations end, arguments fade, noise is forgotten. But silence lasts forever. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you've loved someone who didn't see your worth. Maybe you've given your loyalty to those who betrayed it. Maybe you've tried to explain yourself to people who never really listened. And maybe, one day, you finally realized nothing will change. So you stopped speaking, you stopped chasing, you stopped fighting, and you walked away in silence. That was not weakness. That was not defeat. That was the day you discovered your true strength, because in that moment, you chose yourself. The path of the strong man is not easy. It takes courage to stay calm when others are loud. It takes wisdom to remain silent when provoked. It takes strength to walk away when your heart still wants to stay. But that is the way of the Stoic man. He feels everything, but he is not ruled by it. He sees everything, but he is not shaken by it. He loves deeply, but he never loses himself in love. That balance is what makes him unshakable. And here is the reward, brother. When you master the art of silence, when you walk away from what is beneath you, when you value peace above chaos, you don't just gain strength, you gain freedom. Freedom from other people's opinions, freedom from toxic attachments, freedom from battles that don't matter, freedom from the noise of the world. And in that freedom, you find calm. In that calm, you find clarity. And in that clarity, you find yourself again. So, if you ever wonder why emotionally strong men walk away in silence, remember this: because words are cheap, because battles are endless, because peace is priceless, because silence is the final form of strength. And if you are a man listening to this today, brother, take this truth with you. Do not fear silence. Do not run from silence. Embrace it. Because silence will protect you when words cannot. Silence will elevate you when arguments would drag you down. Silence will remind you of who you are when the world tries to make you forget. Walk away when you must. Do it with calm. Do it with peace. Do it with silence. And when you do, you will discover a power greater than anything this world can offer. The power of being unshakable. The power of being free. The power of being truly strong.